I first heard about this case, the calendar read 1904, and when I opened the archive room door, the photograph that emerged from the mold-covered file sent chills down my spine. The face of 11-year-old Elias Mooring, who lived in the north wing of St. Haldan Orphanage, did not resemble the other children's. It carried an expression far older than his age, a silence that swallowed a person whole. It was written that on the day the photograph was taken, the room's temperature suddenly dropped. The metal bed frames trembled, and the glass fogged up from the inside. But what truly disturbed me was the faint, almost invisible second contour line appearing under Elias's pupil. When the photograph was enlarged, this line transformed into a shape not found in the human iris, curling inward almost like a spiral. No one paid attention at the time, but years later, 3 children who remained at the orphanage said that Elias's behavior changed from the moment his photo was taken. The children claimed that when they were near him, he understood their words before they even left their mouths. Door handles began turning silently, and at night the bunk beds creaked at intervals. According to incident reports, on the evening of the day the photograph was taken, Elias, despite having no training, was able to read Old Norwegian runic writing and had flawlessly completed the 3 missing lines of an old manuscript left on the priest's desk. Dr. Emmerich, thinking the child might have an infection in his brain, took him for an examination. During the checkup, his body temperature dropped from 37 to 29 degrees within 5 minutes. The pulse in his veins weakened, but the child remained fully awake and able to speak. This was where the contradiction began. The body was nearly at hypothermic levels, yet mental activity was abnormally high. The doctor's report stated that the child's speech rhythm had slowed like that of an adult, and between sentences he inserted phrases that could not be properly recorded, such as, "You don't understand this. This is only a shell." A few days later, a strange event occurred in the north wing where the children stayed. In the middle of the night, all the lamps went out at the same moment, and a thin hum echoing in the corridor hurt the children's eardrums. Then silence fell, leaving only a flickering light seeping from the gap of Elias's door. The statement of the caretaker who entered the room still remains in the archive. Elias was sitting on his bed, his eyes appeared completely white, and the shadow on the wall did not match the movement of his body. The shadow moved with a slight delay, and sometimes, while the child was still, the shadow turned its head to the side. When the woman screamed, the other staff rushed in, but within a minute everything had returned to normal. The lamps lit again, and the child seemed to be asleep. But the next morning, it was recorded that 4 children staying in the north wing were delirious with fever, repeating the same sentence, "He sees us, but we don't see him." After this incident, the priest decided to isolate Elias, but it was reported that the airflow around the child changed while he was being taken to the isolation room. The staff said that as they walked down the corridor, the walls momentarily tightened as if inhaling inward. The lamps stretched into long, thin lines, and the metal door frames quivered as if touched by a wet finger. On the first night of isolation, Elias spoke from behind the door. His voice carried both a child's and an adult's tone, layered in 2 different rhythms. Dr. Emmerich claimed the audio recordings were lost, but years later, a half recording was found in a box in the church's storage. In the recording, the child's voice said, "This body is tired, but the one coming does not tire. You think it's a wall. The wall is only your outside." After this, events at the orphanage escalated. Windows began cracking from the inside, the bolts under the metal beds loosened by themselves, and closed windows were found open in the mornings. But the report that affected me the most was the one about the final photograph. In November of 1904, when Elias's condition worsened, doctors noticed rapid signs of aging in his body. His fingertips had wrinkled, his hair strands had turned gray, and his facial features had hardened. When his final photo was taken, the room temperature had dropped to 11 degrees, and as the child looked into the lens, the small light reflected in the center of his pupil was seen moving in the opposite direction. When the photograph was enlarged, it became clear that the light source did not match the actual light in the room. It shone at a reverse angle, as if coming from somewhere else. Elias died 2 days after the photograph was taken, but at the moment of death, his body reportedly stopped moving for half a second and then experienced a contraction never recorded before. The staff said this contraction resembled the room trembling, not the child. Shortly after Elias was buried, the north wing was completely shut down. But years later, in 1958, a repairman entering the room found an old piece of glass trapped inside the wall. The fragment seemed to have broken off from Elias's final photograph, and inside the glass, it looked as though another eye's gaze was frozen. When the repairman turned the light, that eye shifted direction for a moment, even though no one else was in the room. This case never received any official explanation, but every time I see that photograph, I feel the same thing. Elias wasn't there. The picture had captured what took his place, and that thing is still watching.